Good afternoon, this is David Wendell with BushcraftOnFire, and we're pleased to have you for our 7th installment of Almost Naked into the Bush. Today what I want to do is to show you how to build a couple of expedient traps without having any tools whatsoever except for our stone saw and a little bit of cordage that we've gathered from those cattails. So what I'm doing is I've gone out into the bush and I've gotten a couple of sticks. This one has a Y at the top. This is just a straight piece I broke off. And the third one is just a small stick that has a couple of branches coming off it, and I'll show you why we need those branches in just a few minutes. So what we're going to do today is build two traps. We're going to build a figure 4 and we're going to build a Paiute deadfall. Again, we're going to do those without any tools, and I'm going to show you it only takes about 3 minutes to fashion any of these traps. I know there's lots of videos out there where the people have done a lot of carving on the traps and made them, and these traps will work just as well as the carved traps, but with much less time input, and that's especially important if you don't have knives or other tools out in the bush. What I'm doing here is I'm just breaking off the end of this so that I have a Y that's kind of small, and what we're going to do is to fit the upright that goes underneath of our rock or underneath of our stick right into this Y, and then we're going to put the third part of the trap. We're going to set this trigger just like this, and that will allow the trigger to be set inside. And we're going to have to get something here that's just a little bit longer, and it's going to basically set like that and hold that rock up. So you'll be able to see this set in just a minute. We'll get a rock or a log here and set that up. What I've done, and I'll give you a close-up of this, is to set one rock on top of another. That will give me a real good base that will make a clean kill. And I've set this upright with the Y. Now you'll notice that on this trigger, this stick comes in much straighter than it would come in if it was on a, it would be more at an angle like this if it was carved out. So this is going to be a little bit straighter, and this piece up here just holds this on. Now what I'm going to do is to trigger this and show you exactly how fast this thing is, and you can sensitize this by this little stick that's holding this on. If you can see that little piece, you can make that much more sensitive by sliding that out on your stick a little bit, but this is pretty quick the way it is. So let me get a stick and set that off and show you. Alright, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up again so you can see it, how we set it up. And again, it's set up very similar. Now, I put this outside stick at a little bit of an angle to give a little extra pressure against there. And I bring the back end under, set it right there. And have that set right there. So there we are. It's not very hard to set up. Again, it takes about 3 minutes to make this entire thing. And what we're going to do is zoom out a little bit again and let you see exactly how fast this is. And I want to show you so you can see all the components. This doesn't take very much. If I put a piece of bait on here, an animal's going to go under there, and there you go. Now let's go on to the Paiute and show you that. And again, the only thing we need different than what we already have is a little bit of cordage. Now the Paiute is quicker than this figure 4, so it's a good idea to learn how to make the Paiute as well. Well, what I've done is I've set aside the stick that was our trigger stick, and I've got a little tiny stick that I just got out of the bush. Now here's some cattail cordage that I've made, and you can see it's pretty good braid on the cattail. What I'm going to do, because the way you make cordage is to twist it. What I can do is, if I unwrap this, instead of having to tie a knot here, I can simply throw my stick through here and then wrap it back up tight, and that'll hold that in place for me, so that trigger's held in place. On the other end, I'm going to have to just tie a real simple knot. An overhand knot should work fine, so I'll throw an overhand knot in here. One of the nice things about natural cordage is that it tends to be a little more stiff than homemade cordage, or than cordage that you might bring out, like 550 or something. So if I tie this here, you can see that's a nice tight knot. That's not going to come out of there. The stopper on it is actually pulling it, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on there. So let's go ahead and set this up and show you how this works as well. Now what I've done for this trigger stick is I've just taken and I've shaved this a little bit on some sandstone, and that just makes a edge on there. The reason for that edge is going to become apparent in a minute. If I had this all rough and it wasn't very sharp, that will probably just bind up on the trigger assembly. So what we want to do, we've put our cordage on, we've got our trigger on here. Let's set this up and see exactly how fast this is. What I've done now is I've taken that bottom rock out. If that bottom rock is on there with the Paiute, there's too much pressure that is directly on that bottom stick, and because of the twisting pressure of the Paiute, it won't hold upright. So we just take that off of there, and we're going to go ahead and set. Now this will work the same way. It's still going to do the same thing. Notice so that I've got to angle this out a little bit more on the trigger, and that angle will actually help me hold that trigger in place a little better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this here real carefully. Now that trigger is very, very sensitive. If an animal were to even touch this, it's probably going to go off. We're only going to get one shot at this, so let's show you how it works. My bait would be set right about here on the trigger. That animal will come in and just touch that, and there you go. Well, that's a couple of ways to make some expedient traps real quick out in the bush. I think in the Paiute I had all of about 5 minutes put in on making the cordage, plus the minute or two that it cost me to gather the sticks. On the figure 4, a minute or two to gather the sticks, that's all that it took. So what you want to do as you're doing these traps, again, is not worry about having tools necessarily. One of the things that made it possible for me not to carve was to have this Y stick that my upright stood in, that the angle piece stood in. Well, I hope you've learned a little bit about expedient traps out in the bush, and again, they're not very hard to make. Just takes a little bit of thinking. I've never seen these setups before. I kind of came up with them. I'm sure they're out there somewhere and that somebody else has thought them up. But this makes it quick, makes it easy. And we want to thank you so very much for all of your support. We, this week, just yesterday, hit 3,000 channel views and 300 subscribers. We also got our first award, as it were, number 87, I believe, in the sports category for top rated videos, and that was on Tam's Wild Edible. Thank you all so much for that support that you're giving to us. We hope that we can continue to put out quality videos, and your support makes that possible for us. This is David Wendell with Bushcraft on Fire. This has been the 7th episode of Almost Naked Into the Bush, Traps Without Tools. We thank you so very much and hope that you have a great day.